Hi, I'm Carla Higgins, and this is the Double Duty Agent Podcast. I am so glad you're here. Each week, we get together and we explore the stories of successful double duty real estate agents. And from their stories, you can find the solutions to overcoming your challenges and the keys to unlocking your success. Are you ready? Let's get started. Wow. Welcome to episode 10 of the Double Duty Agent Podcast. I have to tell you, when I very first started this podcast, I wasn't sure we would get through episode 1 or 2. And here we are at episode 10. And wow, what a ride it has been. If you've been with me for all 10 episodes or 9 episodes, I hope that you are getting lots of inspiration. You're finding yourself inspired. You're finding yourself believing in yourself. Because I know how hard it is to be a double duty agent. You'll remember from episode 1, I told you I started out exactly where you are. It's hard when you have another commitment, another job, whatever it is that it's keeping you from spending the time that you'd like to spend growing your real estate business. And I know each and every one of you have goals. You have a reason why you got your real estate license. And I know sometimes it seems like Mount Everest. It seems so high. It seems so hard. It seems like maybe you aren't going to be able to make it. But I want to tell you, I believe in you and I know you will make it. And we have had 8 episodes of successful double duty agents who came to share with you their secrets to success, their keys to success. And what I wanted to do today is I wanted to kind of wrap that all up. I know it's been a lot, and sometimes it's easy to get lost in the amazing, inspiring stories and forget about how they apply to us and our real estate business. So that's what I want to do today. So I hope you'll bear with me while we dive back in and find some action steps, some things that you can do in your business to be successful. And next week, we'll be back with yet another inspiring story from a successful double duty agent. Okay, so let's get started. When I went back to review, I realized that our journey has had a lot of reoccurring themes. Not surprised. I've been coaching for 4 years, and I have been coaching not only double duty agents, but full-time real estate agents as well. And here's what I know. It's a reoccurring theme. It is super simple, absolutely super simple to be successful in the real estate business. Unfortunately, as simple as it is, it's just not easy. And it's even harder for you as a double duty agent. But it's okay. You can still get through and you can still get to the other side and achieve your goals. And here's how I know. I've had 9 guests and each and every one of them has accomplished their goals. So let's dive in a little bit. Let's talk about theme number 1, resilience and persistence. This was mentioned in 5 of the 8 episodes. And if you think back to last week, well, if Marcus isn't the poster child for resilience and persistence, I'm not sure who might be, but it could be Livy. It could be Annie. It could be any number of the successful agents that you've heard from, because here's the thing. It is a critical element, a critical ingredient for success. Again, this isn't easy. It's hard. There are going to be challenges along the way. And those challenges, well, those are obstacles that when you overcome them, you learn and you grow. And they're all going to happen. We're going to have these not only in our real estate business, but let's think about it in life in general. This is how we learn and grow as human beings. So resilience and persistence, super important. Let's take a listen from episode 3. So a lot of times dual career agents, or double duty agents, as I like to call them, they have a hard time figuring out how to fit everything in. How did that work for you?
It didn't. That was exactly it. As I started to get busier, it was fine when I just had one here and one there. But as I started to get busier, it wasn't working. And I finally had to come to the realization that I was doing neither of my jobs very well. And that upset me. I didn't care for that. And I was working night and day and weekends, and it was just really hard. You remember, we had lots of conversations about that. So I decided that I had to choose one or the other. So it was definitely real estate.
Okay. The situation just put you in the place. Now, you had a transition plan that we had been working on during the while as we were going. And if I remember correctly, you might have kept moving the target a little bit. So this issue with your time in the end accelerated your moving forward with your transition plan. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely. And I have a problem with what I call the readiness concept. I wasn't sure if I was ready yet. So I keep putting it off. Oh, I'm not quite ready yet. I need to learn this or I need to do that. I also had a lot of problem with comparisons. So I was in coaching with a lot of people who were full-time agents, and I kept comparing what I was doing to what they were doing, but it was like apples and oranges.
Yeah. So comparison is the thief of joy.
It is.
It doesn't, everybody's writing their own story, and we as humans have a tendency to compare ourselves to other people and make judgments about ourselves on that. So we worked on that and we got past that.
Yes, most definitely. And someone told me, don't compare, be inspired.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's just, okay, that's a different way to think about that.
Be inspired. Don't compare, be inspired. That is definitely. Now, isn't that a great reminder as to why we need to stay steadfast in our efforts, the actions that we take, right? There we go. All right. Theme number two, time management and counterbalance. A lot of people like to talk about work-life balance, and a lot of people like to talk about balancing your real estate career with your other commitments, your full-time job, your family commitments, whatever it is that has you being double duty. I personally don't believe in balance. I believe in counterbalance. Think about have you ever been to the circus? Have you ever seen somebody walking a tightrope? When they walk the tightrope, they aren't perfectly balanced all the way across the rope. They are constantly counterbalancing from one side to the other. Or the balance beam. We're getting ready to have the Olympics and watch the gymnasts do their amazing feats on the balance beam. But they aren't balancing on the balance beam. They are counterbalancing on the balance beam. And that's what you need to do as well in your life, in your real estate business, and your other job, or whatever commitment it is that keeps you from having full-time hours with real estate. We have to have counterbalance. We also have to have effective time management strategies are critical to being successful in real estate. So let's listen for a minute from episode 5. Was scheduling, right? So you had it while you were doing tax season, you had a schedule issue, right? You had certain hours that you had to be at work. And I heard that you communicated that with your clients. When you communicated that with your clients, how did that land with them?
I didn't know any different. I just knew that I couldn't answer the phone between, say, 9:30 and noon and between 1 and 4. So I didn't know that might be a problem, so it wasn't a problem.
Don't make it a problem. It's not going to be one.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't even cross my mind that would be a problem.
So we closed 32 houses, having been upfront with our clients, saying, I'm not going to be able to take your calls doing this time between this time. And that worked out okay.
I did. Now I worked my tail off on the weekends and in the evenings. I worked a lot. But yeah, they knew that I could not. I had my voicemail, and I said I will be, replying to emails and voicemails after 4:00 today.
And everybody was okay with that.
They were okay with that.
You ever called your doctor and had your doctor say, "Oh, here, let me drop all my clients, and I'll take care of you right now"?
That's a good point. Yeah.
But we expect that. As agents, a lot of times we think, "Oh, we can't tell them we're not available. They won't think we're good." So I love that. Okay, so the other thing I heard you had a really pretty quick transition plan because you sold 32 houses and all of a sudden that part-time income wasn't necessary anymore. Right. So you transitioned pretty quickly.
I did. Yeah. I only really worked probably for 7-8 months once I got my license. I stopped in the end of April, and I got my license, I think, in October.
Okay. So just one season then?
One season.
But you still had your volunteer work and everything. You were still working around that as well. So scheduling was still important, time blocking?
Yeah, it was different because that was so much more flexible.
Okay.
But I definitely had time. I wanted to bowl, So I let my clients know I'm not available on Thursday nights because, again, you can't answer the phone when you're on a bowling league, bowling team. So I still had, and I don't work on Sundays. So I let them know Sundays are off and Thursday nights are off.
So boundaries. Set some boundaries. And you just explain those to your clients.
Right. Yeah. Again, I didn't know any different. I just knew this is not something I'm willing to give up. So they had to deal with it.
Yeah. Finding that counterbalance. It's a continuous process. Just when you think you've got it figured out, something's going to change for you and you are going to have to counterbalance again. Okay. It's achievable. You just have to have the right approach. All right. Theme number 3 of our first 9 episodes, continuous learning and adaptation. We have to adapt and we have to learn. The need for continuous learning, having that growth mindset. This is not only in your skills, right? It's in your skills, it's in your conversations. The market changes. It's in learning how to navigate a changing market. It's in learning how to overcome objections and have conversations that help your clients achieve their goals. And so it's all about that as well. So we have to make sure we stay updated, right? Things in our industry change all the time. I know we've all been dealing with the most recent change arising out of the NAR settlement from the lawsuits about commission. So learning, you should be learning now about value. You should be learning how to negotiate your commissions so that you can be paid. So we have to make sure. And as double duty agents, this is exceptionally hard because unfortunately most of the training is offered while we're at our other job or while we're dealing with our other commitments. And sometimes we're relegated to just listening to recordings. Sometimes recordings, well, that's kind of hard. So we have 10 other things we need to be doing. So we play those recordings in the background. And, are we really learning? So there's a theme for you to think about: continuous learning and then adapting to the changing market. Let's listen for a minute from episode 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I have more bumps and bruises and scrapes than anybody, I promise you. I have failed my way to where I am. And
we fail forward.
And here's the kicker of that. I own it. I own it.
Yeah. I think that when we have a failure, that's actually setting us up for a future success because there's a lesson that we needed to learn in order to have that success.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So we're 6 years as a CEO, and then I think the next opportunity is coming up for you. How does that work out?
Yeah. Yeah. So the next level where I was seeking more opportunity to serve others and follow my passion, which is building businesses and building the opportunities, was MAPS Coaching. And MAPS Coaching is the largest in the world in terms of real estate coaching, business coaching. And so I became a MAPS business coach. And that lasted 3.5, almost 4 years of MAPS coaching.
And is that the same time that you joined the John Maxwell organization as a coach as well?
Yeah. Inside of MAPS coaching, I also actually during COVID became a certified John Maxwell coach as well.
So great.
I'm always learning.
Always learning. Well, this is a growth opportunity. I mean, that we have to have a learning mindset to grow. And, the other thing that you mentioned earlier is when we grow ourselves, you mentioned all your opportunities to grow yourself. That's what creates our business to grow. We have to grow ourselves in order for our business to grow. So they go hand in hand.
Yeah, 100%. My focus is on me first. It's just like flying an airplane. When they say, hey, by the way, here's the oxygen, right? They tell you what? To put it on first, right? Put it on you first and then help others.
You're not going to help anybody else if you can't help yourself. Yeah.
I'm telling you from experiences, if you don't focus on you first, you're doing the people you love, your family, your friends, you're doing them a disservice. Because I promise you, they care about you, right? And if you don't care about yourself as much as they care about you, then you're failing them. So that's life more than business, right? So business is the same thing. If you're not putting knowledge into yourself, if you're not growing as a leader, then you're not enabling yourself to teach and grow others.
Yes, yes. We have to make sure that we keep learning and evolving. And this mindset, well, it's going to help you stay ahead of the curve. Super important. All right, here's another one, setting clear goals. This was mentioned in, well, I counted it in 5 episodes. I think technically it's probably in all 8 because we are not going to get where we're headed unless we have clear goals. Last week we talked about SMART goals. You might go back and revisit that episode if you don't know what SMART goals are. But setting clear and actionable goals, that's the A in SMART, setting clear and actionable goals, this has been the driver behind each and every one of our episodes. See, those goals, those are also our reasons. And I always say this, our reasons have to be bigger than our resistance. If your goal's not big enough, if your goal's not important enough to you, really, that's what the word big means. It means important to you. If the goal is not important to you, then when it's hard, you just won't do it. So we have to have those goals. Also, without our goals, we don't even know what we need to do. The beautiful thing in real estate, and it was a gift from Gary Keller, which is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And if you haven't read that book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, you'll oftentimes hear it referred to as MREA or the Red Book because it's red. But in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, Gary interviewed successful real estate agents from around the country and determined what the equation was for their success. And there's actually math. Math doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie. There's actually some math. So if you start um, from Covey, we know that we start with the end in mind. So we start setting our goals in reverse. We start with the end and we reverse engineer what we need to do today to get there. And that is in a very good way for you to set clear goals.
Work around.
Yeah, jump in. This is the theme for you, right? Jump in, it'll happen.
Yes.
Jump in, it'll work. Put your head down, do the things that you need to do. Successful.
And I think you have to have goals. For me personally, I had to have goals. I couldn't just wing it. Somebody asked me recently, I was in a store buying something and it came up that I was a realtor, probably because they asked me for my email and it sounds like a realtor email. And they said something about how's the market or how's your year? I don't know, something. And I thought, your year is going according to how hard you work. It's harder. I have to work harder this year maybe than I did in 2020, honestly, because of the interest rates or different barriers with buyers or sellers. But I still want to achieve my goals. So you just have to be more creative and figure out how to lead gen more and have more conversations. So I think goal setting is important because if you just take what comes to you, it'll be
Less than what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And I'm hearing not just goal setting, but I'm hearing keeping tracking your
yes.
numbers,
Have a
tracking where you
spreadsheet.
are, knowing where you are.
Yes.
We're a business. We
Right.
run this like a business.
Exactly.
All right, the next one, building a support system, being around people who support your goals and what you have ahead of you, the path that you have ahead of you on your way. We heard about that and I don't know, I counted in 4 episodes, but really it's a critical part of everyone's story is building a support system. It's invaluable, especially for our dual career, double duty agents. And here's why. Sometimes there's going to be people who want to see a house while you're at work or while you're handling your other commitment, whatever that is, and you're going to need someone to help you. So your support system, it's going to include an awful lot of things. It should include your brokerage. You need to make sure you're at a brokerage that provides really good support for you as a double duty agent. Also, other agents, create relationships with other agents that maybe have a different schedule than you so that if you need a showing assistant, you know exactly who to call, who'll be able to unlock the door for your clients and show them a house if you happen to be at work or minding your other commitment, whatever that might be, and unavailable to show them a house when they need to see it. Also, we talked a lot about in the last 9 episodes, we talked a lot about surrounding ourselves with people who believe in our goals, who believe in our potential, who believe that we can succeed. Because if we're around people who believe in us and who tell us you can do this, you can absolutely do this, right? I'm going to be the first person to tell you absolutely you can do this. You can be successful and whatever your goals are, I promise you you can achieve them. I absolutely promise you that. I believe it 110%. And you need to surround yourself with people who believe that about you as well. Let's listen from episode 6. Let me give this a try and see if it's so you can always do something different. I love that.
Yeah, I think too, aligning myself with the right people and knowing um, that I think that's really important, and like knowing where they're, who they are, and what they do, and how the people that they've helped, and just aligning yourself with those people. So I mean, that can be anybody from like another agent in your office who is doing, is a collaborator and is doing really well and wants to share, and taking a moment to have like a coffee with them and find out like how can I apply that to my business. It could be, the managing broker, and here at Keller, it's a lot of people. A lot of people here, I mean, I will say, I feel like, and again, I'm biased, but we talk about servant leadership, and I really think that that's like so important. And so aligning yourself with those leaders that are here to serve our company and serve our agents, and because again, with our MVVBP, like, success through others, all those things that we talk about here and we read about and on the MVVBP, but they're real. They really are. And
Yes.
I think just having, again, that alignment with the right people that are gonna like contribute to you, and you're contributing to them as well.
That's a constant theme that runs through our interviews. And if you've been listening for a while, you've heard this before, aligning with your brokerage and making sure the brokerage has to offer. And you had a couple choices there, right? You started with
Yeah,
an independent boutique. And when that wasn't meeting your needs anymore, you went to another national brand. And when that wasn't meeting your needs anymore, then you came to another one. And that's okay, right? The real estate
yeah,
industry is big, wide, but you have to make sure that who you choose is going to give you what you need.
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's just like, why bother? You're just stagnant. I'm a big believer in like the energy that you put out needs to, be able to come back to you.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting that fulfillment and what you need, then yeah, it's time to reflect and look, into your heart. And what is it? What is it? Is it my environment? Is it the people? I don't, what is it? Is it the brokerage?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have people around you who understand and support your vision for your life. All right, let's talk a little bit about mindset shifts. They have played a critical role in the journeys of all of our successful agents. You have to have the right mindset, or you're not going to achieve success. You're just not going to get where you want to go. So, here's 3 of the shifts that we've learned about in the last 9 weeks that have been the most impactful. The first one, we mentioned it a little earlier when we were talking about learning, but it is maintaining a growth mindset. This growth mindset is going to be critical, absolutely critical for you to overcome obstacles and to continually be improving. Let's listen from my episode. One of them is limiting beliefs. And I mentioned this a little earlier about limiting beliefs, but you probably have some. Limiting beliefs are stories we tell ourselves, right? And we tell ourselves the story so much that we believe it and it becomes a belief. And these stories, most of the time, aren't 100% true. That's why we start by asking ourselves, is that 100% true? Here's another example of a limiting belief. A limiting belief might be, I don't have enough time to be successful. And is that 100% true? Let's think about that for a minute, right? I didn't have a lot of time. I was working 50, 60 hours a week. Now, I had to make some sacrifices. So in order for me to fit something else in, I had to take something off of my plate at least temporarily. So we have to think about that. And then the next piece to a limiting belief is we have to say, is there proof that I'm incorrect? And here's where the proof comes in. And this is where the double duty agent comes in, because week in and week out, you are going to hear stories of agents just like you who figured out how to fit it in. Okay. It's about time management, time blocking. I actually don't even like calling it time management. It's time use management, right? You're going to manage how you use the time that you're given. So we're going to work on that together. The other thing I want you to think about is commitment. And in order to have commitment, you have to really have a big why. Now, my why was that I had a career that was making me unhappy and it was sucking the life out of me. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life that way. You have a why, and you need to figure out what that why is. Sometimes I told you this is hard, and sometimes it's too hard. And when things are too hard, what we tend to do is shut down. We get afraid. Any of those things, if that's happened to you, those are limiting beliefs. Those limiting beliefs are valid, by the way. There are some people that tell you that limiting beliefs, you just ignore them, put them away, overcome them. Those limiting beliefs, they are there for a reason, right? This is the part of us, the same part of us that keeps us from walking down a dark alley alone at night. This is the part of us that wants to protect us and keep us safe. And what we have to do is have a conversation, a relationship with that part of ourselves. And we have to say, look, I know this is going to be hard. I know it's going to be challenging, but we're going to be okay. And this is why we need to do it. This is where we're going to end up on the other side of this. And if we can't focus on that why and where we're going to end up on the other side of it, then we're going to have a really hard time working with our limiting beliefs. So I want you to focus really clearly on your why. And I know sometimes that's overwhelming, but you have it. What was it that you wanted when you decided to get your real estate license? Why did you put yourself through taking that class? Why did you put yourself through taking that licensing exam? Why did you do it? And there's a reason why. And what was that going to do for your life? What was that going to do for your family? And let's focus on that. Okay. And that's how we're going to push through our limiting beliefs. So, yeah, embracing a growth mindset can make all the difference. The next mind shift that you heard over and over and over again, I counted 5 times at least in the last 8 episodes, is viewing challenges as opportunities. Your challenges, they are your opportunities. I have to tell you, my kids, and if they're listening to this podcast, they're going to roll their eyes because they have been hearing this all of their lives. I have 2 amazing adult children, and I know that when they hear this, they're going to go, "Oh, there she goes again." But challenges, these are our opportunities, right? If we do not challenge ourselves, we won't have opportunities. Growth comes when we're uncomfortable, right? We have to reframe our challenges. Look for the opportunity, look for the learning, right? What was the learning? And this is essential for growth. And it will absolutely give you powerful perspective. Let's listen from episode 8. Real estate.
So I was, nobody will believe this, but I was in the financial field. So I worked through college at a bank and was getting a marketing and international business degree with Kelly School of Business. And I worked up to being the assistant manager at First Merchants Bank. Shout out to First Merchants. And I grew up there. And then got an opportunity to work for a financial advisor doing implementation, the trades, things like that, with an investment advisor in Carmel.
Okay.
So worked there for about 4 years, got my master's degree in business management while I was there. And it was one of those, which I feel like every real estate agent has this, but I was like, oh no, this isn't what I want to do. I really thought this was it. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, like all the business lady things. Business suit Libby is what they called me when I first got into real estate, and got my license and decided to quit my corporate job. So
Okay.
I did leap because there was a lot going on that it just wasn't settled with me. So I was getting married, dual income, all the things, and decided that this is it. I'm now 30. I'm going to be married. I'm going to jump off the cliff, and we're doing this.
Okay. So you had a job and you got your real
Yeah.
estate license while you had a job, and then for reasons that were maybe a little outside of your control, you were just like, okay, fine, let's just go do this.
Yes, I called my mom in the parking lot of that building and I said, Mom, this is what's going on. I can't, this is against what I like, whatever. And she goes, do it. And I was like, you agree with this? This is not what you do.
Well, as
So
parents, we
mom
don't
said
want the
yes.
same things. We don't want the same things for our children that we have for ourselves. So, yay, mom! I'm going to go with yay, mom on that.
Well, bless my mom's heart. We lovingly, my brothers and I call her the dream crusher because she is that safety. You do the 9 to 5, like you get the check every 2 weeks. And one of my brothers opened a food truck. I got into real estate, so we're just off the beaten path. And now she just accepts it all and thinks it's great.
Very good. And yes, Libby. Every challenge holds the potential for growth and improvement. It's absolutely true. All right, the next shift, focusing on the process, not just the outcome. Okay. So we always say that we want to start with the end in mind. So we need to know what the outcome is that we need, but then we have to focus on the process. It's super interesting. I think that our society, maybe it's always been this way, but it seems more so recently that our society wants instant gratification. How many of you guys, when you go do shop at Amazon, if you go shop at Amazon and it tells you that you can't have something for 3 days, you're like, what? 3 days? I have to wait 3 days to get my item that I'm ordering? That's crazy, right? Used to be you'd order something and it might take weeks to arrive at you. And now we expect instant gratification. And unfortunately, we might expect that in our business as well. And our business just isn't going to work that way. Remember, what we do today is our business 90 days from now or even further out. Not everyone is ready to buy or sell a house right now. We have got to stay in communication with them so that when they're ready, we're right there for them and ready to help them. So we have to make sure we work on the process. And the word process, really what that means is a system. Do you have a system? A system is required in order to be consistent. You need a consistent system. And sometimes that process, that system, well, it might get a little boring. And you just need to learn to love the boring because the boring is going to bring you the money, right? The boring will bring you the money. So that system and process is super important. Let's listen for a minute for Marcus. Marcus talked about this with us last week.
Wanted to touch on was you talk a lot, Carla, about mindset, right? You talk a lot about mindset,
Yeah,
right?
it's important.
It's really important. Like you gotta have the mindset first before anything, right? Because if you don't got it's kind of like building a house. If you don't got the foundation, everything else will crumble, right? So what I did was when I was in prison, I kept a journal, right? Because I know that one day I was going to get out, and I could tell my story to help people that's going through stuff that I'm going through stuff, that the stuff going through the stuff that I went through. So when these people get out, they would know that it's okay not to go back to prison or okay. It's okay to not to go back to doing what you once was doing, right? People in prison need to know it is a way out. You just got to put the work in and the mindset, right? When people look at prison, and when people look at prison on the movies, they think that it's all physical, right? But in order to survive, you got to have the right mindset. You got to have the right mindset, and this has a lot and everything to do with real estate. Also, it all starts with the mindsets.
Exactly, Marcus. The journey shapes us. It's not just the destination. We have to focus on the outcome. We have to know where we're headed, but then we have to refocus on the process, the systems that will get us there. All right, let's talk about some other key action items, some specific key action items. And one of them, I think it's probably a mindset too. Do you remember Dennis's favorite word? Good. That's a nugget.
Yeah. So my favorite word is decide. You decide to do something. It's the death of all other options.
That's so good.
So it's just one of those things that I decided that this is my path. That if it's going to be, it's up to me, right? So I wanted to focus on building a life with my wife, raising kids when we had them, and really having a life by design with purpose. And so I wrote down the goals. Says, hey, I want to hit $40,000 and I want it to come from real estate. I didn't want it to come from whatever stuff I was doing on the side. And by that, so that was probably in October or November timeframe. And then by that next February, March timeframe, I already exceeded the 40,000.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So transition plan. Now
Yeah.
it's time to jump.
Have a plan.
Yes, Dennis, it's the power of making a decisive choice. Once you decide, all options fall away, allowing you to focus entirely on your chosen path. So take a moment to decide on your next decision. What's the next decision that you need to make in your business? Commit to it fully and watch how it transforms your focus and your productivity and your results, right? So you have to decide, make a choice. All of the things will fall away and then take action in alignment with that decision. So, those are some common themes that we've heard over and over and over again in each of the previous 9 episodes. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about my favorite moment or my favorite takeaway from each of the last 8 episodes. And this is really hard. This is like picking your favorite child. I can always pick my favorite child. It's the one that I'm with. If I'm with them both, I can't have a favorite. I don't know how that works. But I want to talk a little bit about each of our episodes. And I definitely want to thank each of the first guests who came on board with me to help me build this podcast and who believe in me and who allowed me to tell their story, because that's a very big gift that I have received from each of these 9 individuals, allowing me to tell their story. So let's start with week 1, episode 2, actually, which is Scott and Rhonda Smith. And you'll remember Scott and Rhonda Smith. They are my operating principal and my managing broker. They are my inspiration as I started this new career after I turned 50, and then shifted a little bit more and started another new career as a coach 4 years ago. It's their inspiration, their support that has got me to where I am today. But from their story, right? Think about where they started and where they ended up. When I talk to you about um, imagining the end in mind, go that far out. Think about, as big as it might be, where you might end up down the road. Because when Scott and Rhonda started out, they didn't know where they were going to end up, but they had their sights set on something bigger than where they were right now. If you don't set your sights on something that's bigger, better, easier, more life by design than where you are right now, well, where will you end up? We have to shoot for the stars, and we might end up, what is it? Oh, it's shoot for the moon, and we might end up among the stars. I think I got that quote wrong, but I got it right at the end, right? We have to aim big, right? Aim big, and you will love where you end up. So that is inspiration from episode 2. Episode 3 with Miss Annie Koppel, who is one of my first coaching clients. So that was a very special interview for me. And I think the biggest takeaway for me from Annie's episode was just that being inspired by other people. I coached Annie through this several times where she would get so frustrated as a double duty agent when she wasn't achieving the success that her counterparts, the full-time agents in our coaching program were achieving. And what she learned was to find inspiration in what they were achieving and not let it bring her down. So, not setting that bar so high. Comparison is the thief of joy. But inspiration, well, that's not a thief at all. That's a gift. All right. And then we had the lovely Miss Christy Williams. Such an amazing story, a leap of faith. And I think that the biggest takeaway, actually, for me from Christy's episode, outside of that leap of faith and the bravery and courage that it took, was really her advice to you about new builds, about getting familiar with all of the opportunities for new construction and working with the developers in your community, and then finding clients to match with those opportunities. So, what kind of system could you create for yourself around that piece of advice? Maybe every weekend you could visit one model home community. That might fit into your life, could be a lot of fun, right? But how can you work that piece of advice into a system for yourself to help you grow your business? Picking my favorite part of the very next episode is going to be very difficult for me because then in episode 5, I had Miss Becky Gluff join me. And Becky was my productivity coach. When I was a brand new double duty agent, she's the one. She is absolutely the one that helped push me forward. And what I loved about Becky's episode, and it was actually something I didn't know about her, which is how she like kind of personally knows herself and she hacks herself. Like she hacks her where she knows she's probably not going to do the thing she needs to do unless she does this. And if you remember from her episode, she just doesn't get dressed in the morning because if she gets dressed and she's ready to go, she knows she's likely to leave. So she has hacked herself so she was sure to make her calls and then she gets dressed and then she can go about her day. Now, I know for a double duty agent, that doesn't sound like the best tip for you, but how can you employ that tactic in your life? So let's think for a minute. What do you do as soon as you get off work or you leave the other commitment that you have that's keeping you from full time real estate? What do you do when you have some downtime from that other commitment? How can you create a hack around it? What is it that you most love to do? Could you say that you're not going to have dinner until you make your calls? Could you say that you're not going to have dessert until you make your calls? Could you say that you're not going to do whatever your favorite activity is before you make your calls? What can you do to set yourself up for success? It's really kind of, if you've ever read the book, Atomic Habits, by James Clear, you'll know in there he does something called habit stacking. So, what is the thing that you always do when you get off work? What could you put? Could you put your calls right in front of that? Maybe you get in your car from work and you don't even start the car and start driving until after you've made your calls. How would that work for you? So think about how you can employ this strategy that Becky has shared with you, not the not getting dressed thing, because I know you have to get dressed to go to work or wherever it is that you have to go first before you can do real estate. But could you come up with a personal hack like this that would help you create the habit of making your calls and doing your job? How would that work for you? All right, episode 6, Miss Melissa Doubleday. I am not going to tell you to go on match.com. That's not the takeaway from Melissa's episode, although it is super funny and very memorable. She got into real estate through match.com. So if you haven't listened to that episode, you might want to go back and catch it because there's so many good things, including a funny story that she shares with you. But the one big takeaway I had in that was driving the neighborhoods and getting to know the neighborhoods really well. Where are the schools? Where are the libraries? Where are the parks? Where are all of the things in the neighborhood? So pick a neighborhood in your market each weekend and go spend some time in that neighborhood and get really familiar with the market. I thought that was an excellent piece of advice. And it goes hand in hand with a piece of advice that I want to give you. So the market shifts all the time. And right now we can feel it shifting. And the way that you're going to be able to identify the shift and be able to talk about it is something that'll take you maybe 2-3 minutes every day. And I did this first thing in the morning, even when I was double duty. I went into the MLS and I looked at how many listings were there in the last 24 hours, how many properties pended in the last 24 hours, and how many properties closed yesterday in the last 24 hours. And I kept a running tally on a sheet of paper next to my computer, and I could see the market shift. I'm going to tell you, try that. Try that for 30 days and see what you learn about your market. Episode 7, Dennis O'Brien. I'm afraid with episode 7, you may have had to have listened to that one multiple times because he gave you so many good pieces of advice, some action items, some steps that you could take, some systems, some strategies that you could R&D. By the way, do you know what R&D stands for? Rip off and duplicate. It's a Keller Williams kind of joke that we have running at Keller Williams, because everything at Keller Williams we share as a community. In fact, every year we have a conference called Mega Leadership Camp. And what happens at that Mega Leadership Camp is that the very successful agents, the ones that are making multiple seven figures a year in real estate, get on the stage and they give us the recipes to their success. They just tell us, do this, do this, do this, and this will help you be successful. And then you can pick and choose, because obviously you can't do all the things, but it's really great. So Dennis gave you lots of things to R&D. Well, we've already talked about one of my very favorite things from Dennis's episode, which was the word decide. My second thing that I thought was a great takeaway that you guys could employ in your business right away was to join some not-for-profit boards and start networking with the people on the board. This has two really big pluses for you that I could see. One would be obviously the people and the relationships. And two, it would give you a reason to talk to the other people in your world, because you could talk to them about the mission or whatever it is that the not for profit that you chose, what their mission was. You could talk about that with your database as well. So, and remember, people work with us if they know us, like us, and trust us. Well, if we are working on a board, right, that for something important to somebody else, then we're going to get know, like, and trust really quickly. So I thought that was a really great strategy for lead generation. It doesn't sound like lead generation, but it absolutely is. All right, now we're to episode 8. Episode 8 with Miss Libby Johnson. Wow, there's so much there. Triple duty. She's the triple duty agent. I have recoined her, the triple duty, thanks to those amazing triplets. And, it's hard to choose with Libby what my favorite part of that episode was and what the biggest takeaway was for you, because there was so much that she had to share. But I think I'm going to focus on success through others. So, Libby was all about success through others. And really, you're going to have other people around you to help you be successful on this journey of becoming a successful double duty agent and achieving whatever goal it is that you've set for yourself. So making sure that you have those other people around you. So success through others. I think we'll talk about that with Libby. And then last week, episode 9 with Marcus Miller. And I can't thank Marcus enough for coming to share his story with us, because there's an inspiration. If again, I need to come up with another word other than inspiration, because that one was so amazing. His story is so amazing. Let me just ask you a question. Do you have these thoughts in your head where you think, I can't because I can't be successful at this because I can't lead generate because I don't have enough time. I can't be successful, right? I can't be successful because I don't have enough time. You may not actually put the because in there, but that's part of our belief system. We tell ourselves these things. Our ego tells ourselves these things to keep us safe. And after you listen to Marcus's story, well, I'm not sure that you can hold on to those beliefs much longer, because Marcus is amazingly successful because he chose to be. He has the right mindset. He has the drive. He has the motivation. His reason is definitely bigger than his resistance. I think episode 9 with Marcus is really not only about resilience, but it's about exactly what it's going to take for you as a double duty agent to be successful. So if you didn't listen to Marcus's episode last week, please take a listen. The last thing I wanted to talk about is some things that I've learned. I've learned that I say right a lot. So if you go back and listen to the episodes and you count how many times I said right, I don't know why that happens. I'm working on it. My daughter pointed out that no matter how excited you are, it's inappropriate to say the word excited more than a dozen times in 20 minutes. So apparently I say excited a lot. And if you guys have heard that I say excited a lot, I apologize. I'm working on it. Ultimately, the thing that I've learned is that I can do this. And when you get uncomfortable, you grow as an individual. And starting this podcast, well, it was a big challenge for me. It was very much outside my comfort zone, and I am enjoying it so much. And I want to express to you, the listeners, my gratitude for allowing me to have this podcast and for tuning in week after week to listen to the inspiring stories. I have got some amazing stories lined up for you as we move forward next week. So I hope you'll keep joining me. And if there's anything that you would like for me to cover on this podcast, a topic that you would like to hear discussed, a challenge that you need some help overcoming, if you go to doubledutypodcast.com, there's a link there where you can connect with me and let me know. I'd also like to ask a couple favors. One is, would you rate this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever that is? If there's a feature for you to rate and review the podcast, if you would do that for me, that will help me a lot in growing and attracting new listeners to come hear these amazing, inspiring stories. And then if there's anyone that you know who might benefit from listening to these stories, would you please share our podcast with them? They can easily just go to that same website, doubledutypodcast.com, and they can click on the link there so that they can find the podcast, or it's available wherever they listen to podcasts just by searching Double Duty Agent Podcast. And one last favor, if you know anyone, if you know a successful double duty agent or a successful real estate agent that started out their career as a double duty agent, and here's the thing I know, the National Association of Realtors say that 60% of all real estate agents are dual career or part-time. They call it part-time. I don't like part-time. That's why I call you double duty agents. So 60%, I think it's probably higher than that. So if you know of anyone I need to interview for this podcast who would be an inspiring story that we would want to hear, please go again to that same podcast, doubledutypodcast.com, and recommend them. And if you are a double duty agent who has achieved success and you would like to be a, before I let you go, just one more thing. Last week, I know you heard my exciting news about the rise of the double duty agent. I am hosting a free webinar on Thursday, August 1st. It's going to be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you are on the West Coast, that might be 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock your time. And if you're Central Time, that would be 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So check your local time zone. It is 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday, August 1st. And I'm calling this webinar The Rise of the Double Duty Agent. I just mentioned to you that the National Association of Realtors tells us that 60% of the real estate agents are just like you. However, how much of the training and assistance that is available is actually designed for you? Well, my passion is to change that. And this webinar is a way for me to do that. During this webinar, we are going to take a deep dive into some proven strategies that can help you manage your time more effectively, reduce stress, and consistently generate leads so that you can grow your business. Here's what you can expect. We are going to have some advanced techniques that will help you excel both in your real estate business and in your life, in your other job, or whatever your other commitment is. So, we're going to work on some effective time management strategies. We are going to talk about the double duty 5x5, which is the lead generation system that I created that will help you attract and convert leads consistently in the time that you have available as a double duty agent. And then we're going to talk about some stress reduction strategies. Can't have that stress in our life. We talked about self-care earlier. We cannot have that stress. So we're going to talk about tips to maintain high productivity without burnout. No burnout allowed. And again, here's the best part. It's completely free. This is just my gift to you for having listened and joined me week after week on the Double Duty Agent podcast. So if you can't attend at that time, I will have a recording, but I do need you to register. One, I won't know where to send the recording if you don't register. And two, if you're going to join me live and in person on August 1st, the technology has a limited number of seats. So go ahead and register now. You're going to go to that same website, doubledutypodcast.com. So go to the website, doubledutypodcast.com, and you'll find a link there to register for the Rise of the Double Duty Agent. I will be looking forward to seeing you there and helping you rise as the double duty agent. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some things today that you can put into action, right? Spending your time listening to a podcast, well, I appreciate that. I want you to do that. But I also want you to find things that you can put into action to help you move closer to your goals. That is the whole point of this podcast. So I hope today the summary helped you find a few. I'd love to hear from you what your favorite elements of each of the prior 8 or 9 podcasts were. And I promise you next week we'll be back. I've got an amazing, inspiring story to share with you from another successful double duty agent. And until then, I hope you keep thriving as a double duty agent. See you soon. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you're leaving inspired and you found a key or two you're going to try out this week to see how they help you to unlock your success. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single story. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can find me at doubledutypodcast.com. That link is also in the show notes. Until next time, have a productive week.